Okay, same thing as left.
All right, I'm putting a stop to this.
That's not bad.
Let me know when you decide to give up.
2023 was a great year for gaming, with some people even calling it one of the best years ever. But there was one game that I noticed that was not included in the discords of the best games of 2023, and this game was Hi-Fi Rush.
Hold on, did you just feel that?
Weird game, as it came out of nowhere, dropped on the same day as it was announced, managed to outsell the much more marketed game Forspoken. The game quickly became one of my favorite games of the last few years in terms of its gameplay and consumer-friendly practices. But what is it that made Hi-Fi Rush so great, and why was it shadow dropped? Let's find out, shall we? So, the premise of the game is this. You play as Shy, a 25-year-old wannabe rockstar who signs up for Project Armstrong at the Vandelay company to replace his seemingly disabled right arm, but something goes awfully wrong when his iPod drops on his chest, in the process making him a defect. Security pins him as a defect, and now you need to escape the factory. But I have a feeling that you will meet many friends along the way. Welcome to Hi-Fi Rush. So, as I said earlier, there were many heavy hitters in 2023 that took all the spotlight of that year's awards. Hi-Fi Rush did not really get much attention compared to the other games, which is unfortunate because in my personal opinion, Hi-Fi Rush was the best game of 2023. The game came out the same day as it was announced during the Microsoft Bethesda conference, and the best part was the pricing, only €30 for the game. The price alone gives me hope for the future of gaming, comparing it to other games such as, the AAA genre, or according to Ubisoft Skull and Bones, quadruple A gaming. Yeah. And so there have been, other rhythm games in this genre, like Space Channel 5, Metal Hellsinger, probably the most famous one being Guitar Hero. I would say that the game is the most similar to the Devil May Cry games, especially when it comes to comboing the enemy and keeping them in the air. Hi-Fi Rush was announced during the Bethesda and Microsoft Dev Direct in 2023 and was published by Bethesda. The studio, Tango Gameworks, who has previously made the Evil Within series and Ghostwire Tokyo. So Hi-Fi Rush is a steep change in game direction for the company, and I would argue that this is the studio's best game they have ever made. In an interview with Shinji Mikami, a former Resident Evil series director, in March of 2022, he said he wants the studio to start working on more minor and non-horror games in the future. He wants the image of the studio to change, as they are seen as a studio that can only create survival horror games, and they want to be viewed as a studio that can create a wider variety of games. And furthermore, just like Double Fine Studios that I have recently covered, Tango Gameworks does not want to focus on only big budget AAA titles moving forward, as they should be able to make smaller games. And it's also because it's easier to train newcomers in smaller teams when making these games. And as I said, I really like this mentality, since in the current AAA landscape with millions upon millions in the budget, one failed game means the studio might go bankrupt or close down. So it's a safe choice, but it provides longevity for the studio. John Johannes, the game director of Hi-Fi Rush, said in different interviews how the idea and premise of the game came from movies such as Shaun of the Dead and other films by Edgar Wright. The shadow drop, or rather that the game came out the exact moment it was announced at the Dev Direct, was in part a strategy by Bethesda as they wanted to avoid skepticism and they had some unsure expectations regarding Hi-Fi Rush, since it was a significant departure compared to the studio's previous games, Ghostwire Tokyo and the Evil Within games. But let's be clear though, it's quite unusual for AA or AAA games to be shadow dropped on the same day as they are announced. It's mostly indie games that tend to do this during the Game Awards trailers. And I remember a long time ago, when Sega was still making consoles, they had the Sega Saturn, which was coming out, and they announced at a conference that it was going to be released a few weeks earlier than expected, and this pissed a lot of people off because they had not planned or had the money ready to buy the console at the time and taking time off work, so doing a shadow drop or dropping a game or console earlier than planned is a huge risk. So when making the names for the characters in Hi-Fi Rush, they deliberately choose to not use any American or Japanese names, so they wanted something, from another world, like food items, something unidentified. And it's an action game where everything is synced up to the music, a colorful rhythm action game. And when making the game sync up with the music programming system that made everything in the world sync up to the track, depending on the speed of the song, everything in the game would sync up to the beat, and it took a lot of time from a technical standpoint, which no one in the studio previously had any experience of making. When we talk about influences, there are some clear examples like Jet Set Radio, Lollipop Chainsaw, Scott Pilgrim, and the inspiration from the bar scene from Shaun of the Dead, where they fight to the music beats. And that's where the inspiration came from. And a lot of the comedic style is, quick and snappy dialogue with high pacing. Of course, there are also some, inspiration from Wayne's World or Bill and Ted with the catchphrases every time you find a item like permanent health or energy. So the idea of accessibility, if it were too difficult of a rhythm game, many players would find it too demanding, or that, it's not their type of game. So the studio worked really hard on making everything sync to the beat. There were ideas that if you did not attack to the beat, the attack would not come out at all, so you're being punished for it. And this was later scrapped and instead made you so you deal normal damage when not hitting at the beat, but you deal extra damage when hitting to the beat. So the game in general is a user-friendly and does not have a steep learning curve to complete the game. But to get really good at the game, it will take you time and skill, but it's not a necessity. A rhythm action game, which is quite different from the standard type of rhythm games, a living soundtrack. Every attack and combination creates its own music. How your attacks and combos sync up and create something akin to a music video. It's quite interesting how John Johannes mentioned that the music team of Hi-Fi Rush thought the game was too easy because, well, they are too good at finding the beats, as they have so much experience with music. The game was released on January 25, 2023. The game was favorably liked by both critics and users alike, garnering a 97 overwhelmingly positive with 20,000k user ratings on Steam. Now, Hi-Fi Rush managed to win a fair amount of awards, and the most esteemed being the best audio design at the Game Awards.
And the Game Award goes to Hi-Fi Rush.
Though I still think it's quite unfortunate that Hi-Fi Rush has gone largely unnoticed by a lot of players. This is probably due to the shadow drop and the fact that there was no hype building up for the game. Now, the writing of the game is excellent, especially the characters. The type of characters, especially the main character that Hi-Fi Rush has, Shy, it can be quite, a hit or miss for many people, but Hi-Fi Rush never really goes to that manner, even though it should. I don't really understand how they did it so well with Shy, because he's such a likable character. But the writing is really good because every character has their own agenda, their personality, their needs, and there's a lot of Western humor with a lot of classic slapstick comedy. The customization in the game is some of the best I have seen in recent years, especially during the current microtransactions for the color blue era. After you complete the game, you're able to shop for different clothes in exchange for scrap currency, and there is a huge variety of different clothes and outfits for you to choose. Everything from t-shirts, jackets, shoes, hats, and electric guitars, where there is a huge assortment to choose from. There are also different outfits, like the left shark costume. Unfortunately, your companions do not have the same variation of clothing, but they have a decent assortment to choose from. I particularly like the 808 outfits, which feel quite unique. The fact that there is no pay for real money to unlock these warms my heart and gives me my faith in gaming back. All of these, customization options that you choose will be in the game when you're playing, but not in the animated or drawn cutscenes. The gameplay of Hi-Fi Rush is one of its main selling points, and it's great. Like, more than great, it's fantastic. The greatest part is how the game always throws something new at you, be it enemies or new combos, or different gameplay in terms of puzzles or QTE events. You have two different types of attacks, the light attack and the heavy attack, and you can string around various combos between light and heavy attacks. The most vital part is attacking to the beat, and it will take you some time to learn the rhythm and connect hits to the beat in perfect unison. You also have these short segments in between fights after beating the first wave of enemies. There's a randomized cutscene that just brings more life to the game and Shy and 808's relationship. Now, you will unlock the grappling hook quite early in the game, which lets you traverse the linear platform parts of the game, but it's also used in combat to an insane degree, especially against ranged and flying enemies. And in combat you can use it to grab onto enemies close or far away, and you can string some combos together with it. Your movement, both in combat and outside combat, is that you can dash up to 3 times, but you have to dash the beat, and the same thing goes with jumping. The more combos you're able to hit to the beat deal more damage and increase the amount of loot dropped from enemies. The game also provides the player with a parry ability later on, which enables you to parry almost any enemy attack if you time it correctly. There are also many enemies that you can only kill with parry attacks, and these are kinda similar to a QTE event where you either have to dodge or parry in the correct order to the beat. The enemy will give you the indication when it's going to attack, and then you just have to measure up and parry at the same pace. Some of the harder enemies will also enter some kind of rage mode when falling down to a certain amount of health, where they will throw out 2 waves of rage that you can dodge, but if you don't dodge them, you will enter a QTE where you need to parry its attacks. If you parry a majority of them, you can do a finishing attack, and if you hit the correct timing, you instantly kill the enemy. And the enemy variety of this game is excellent. It starts off with these, generic robot types that have been seen in any other game, but it slowly but rapidly introduces new enemies that have their own abilities, beats, attack patterns, and just difficulty in general. You can also summon your companions during the fighting. For example, the shield enemies can only be taken down once you remove their shield with Peppermint. Macaron has the ability to punch through the enemy's sea metal. You can also time these, and you can do certain combos where you unleash a combo with said companion which deal even more bonus damage. There's also a wide array of different options to find the beats. And first of all, there is the music, background, how the enemies react, and how Chai snaps his fingers. If you want, you can also enable the perma beat bar, which will show every beat in the game. Speaking of combos, the game has a ton of them. You know, you start with the standard basic hit attack combos, but you can later get new ones by buying them from the shop, and it has a huge variety of combos that you can use. And some of them are easier, and some of them are harder, and you know, they deal varying amount of damage. You can also upgrade your companion's abilities to aid you in combos, or that they have more powerful attacks when you hold down the call trigger. The game is split up into different chapters, with 12 of them in total. And it's more or less that there are 2 per boss, where the first one is setting up and perhaps killing a mini-boss, you know, getting more acquainted with their location and coming up with a plan to take them down. And while the other one is more or less get to the boss and then it's a boss battle, and then rinse and repeat. The art style is a mix between the classic Japanese manga anime style and the American comic book style, but the developers did not straight up wanna copy these. Instead, they went with 3 words: colorful, clean, and sharp, and they succeeded in all these categories. The animated cutscenes in the game are quite few and spread out, but what they have is style, and I don't think any other game has ever done transitioning from in-game to cutscenes like Hi-Fi Rush. It feels like the game never really takes you out of the experience, and it keeps you invested in its world. As the game was developed to be like an American comic book, you can see a lot of these pop-out words when you hit your combos or destroy enemies. We see this a lot, but especially during the boss fights where your last hit and when bosses are introduced. It will be, you know, one frame of comic art with a lot of colors and words just popping out of the frame. I have heard that for some people the visuals makes it hard to focus on the game, and personally I never struggle with this. Of course it depends on what you want to focus on more, if you want to watch your enemies for indications or focusing on your own beat or the music. And you know, especially if you're dishing out a combo on one of the enemies while another one is going to hit you from behind. And that's one of the greatest things, or its biggest mistake, with its visuals and everything being tied to the beat. What should you focus on? Your visual cues or the ones you hear? And I can agree for the fact that there is a lot of clutter on the screen, especially in the late game where there are so many different enemy types, they all do different abilities. You have ranged units attacking you, you have flying units attacking you, you have ground units attacking you. Move to the beat, you have to hit to the beat, you have to dodge to the beats. So there is a lot to keep in mind. And Hi-Fi Rush looks spectacular, how it essentially mimics the looks of flat 2D animation within 3D game content, with cel-shaded characters with bold, uneven outlines and dramatic color-rich designs that are, you know, reminiscent of cartoons from the early 2000s to the modern day. Generally though, texture detail is kept to an absolute minimum in the game. That makes Hi-Fi Rush distinct from most other cel-shaded games, you know, like Breath of the Wild or Persona 5. The minor issue that I personally have is the environments or levels. A lot of them tend to blend together, especially since most of them take place inside an industrial complex, and there's not much variation between levels when you are inside. I just wish that each executive's domain was a bit more, you know, varied or stylized. Tango Gameworks made a lot of bold choices in the basic construction of this title, and their bravery has been rewarded with an absolutely visual stunning game. Now, the music of Hi-Fi Rush is one of the main selling points. Even the streamer mode has an awesome soundtrack. The soundtrack was made by the former Konami composer Shuichi Kobori and former Capcom composer Ryo Uratani. The game also has 10 licensed music tracks throughout the game. And the game has a lot of tracks that are connected to the rock genre, which makes sense since the game's protagonist, Shai's dream is to become a rock star. And not only is the game a love letter to music, especially the rock genre and the idea of being a rock star in general, you notice it when you play the game that the entire world pulses in rhythm with the music. You wanna jump further? Do it to the beat. Wanna finish off your combo by slamming a guitar into the ground and making shockwaves? Play a full bar and hit every note in perfect unison. And you can do all of this as long as you just listen to the rhythm. The result is an audio-visual fusion where music and game design works together in harmony. For the cutscenes, the music needed to be seemingly integrated without a pause to keep up the tempo. For that, there were a lot of trial and error in making sure that the song would connect appropriately, but the music never loses a beat.
Let's go!
The developers concocted a tool called InstFX, which delivers a suite of musical sound effects when the player or enemies attack and connect their hits. As the devs say, we had to make it feel like what the player did or the enemies were doing added to the song to create a sort of unique jam session. The game's own original soundtrack is a vibrant, joyful mix of alternative rock and electric fusion. Now, the story of Hi-Fi Rush is fairly small scale and isolated, but it tells a quite beautiful story of personal growth, bonding, trusting each other, and the belief in your own skills. After entering the Vanderlei campus and signing up for the Armstrong program, we already see what type of character Chai is when talking to the reception robot.
Hi, is it
Yep.
profession rock star?
Future rockstar.
You know, he's carefree, quite a loudmouth, and he's just a true wannabe rock star. He's accepted into the program, though the data analytics recommends that he should be a garbage cleaner. He is prepped for surgery, he puts away all of his clothes and possessions, but unknown to Chai, the head of the Armstrong project, Kale, picks up his iPod and throws it away, and it lands precisely on Chai's chest. And after the process, Chai now has a new arm and iPod at the heart.
Is that a weapon?
I don't think so.
I think he's resisting.
Wait, what?
He is now able to emulate the beat of the world since everything around you starts to have a rhythm, from the platforms, the environments, and even your enemies now have a beat. And with his new arm, he can now summon a iron rod as it picks up a lot of scrap metal that forms around it resembling a guitar. He is tagged as a defect due to the iPod and needs to fight his way out. And here at the start is where you learn the basics such as light attack, heavy attacks, and after disposing of the enemies you continue to try and find a way out of this place. After running around for a while, trying to find a way out, Chai stumbles upon, some sort of cat that is being trapped by a few security guards. You save the cat, but all of a sudden 808, or the cat, starts to talk to you, thanking you for helping it, and it wants to meet up at a later location. And when you meet up with 808, the voice is not from the cat, it's from a person who is called Peppermint. And she created 808 and speaks through it since it was created to be a pet but also a spy, since we have seen 808 sneaking around since the first opening cinematic. But something weird happens when Chai touches 808. you two start to feel a certain special connection between the two of you. And it's as if you are part of each other now, where 808 transforms into a floating sphere that follows you and helps you with the beat. Of course, this event is not something that should be possible according to Peppermint, who invented 808. But again, Shy needs to find his way out of this place and asks Peppermint for help, and the only exit is through quality assurance. Chai stumbles upon a fuse box that he interacts with and it just powers him up. It's like electricity right through him. And he can now use special attacks to take out enemies. And you can later buy new ones or swap out the ones you already have. And you can also have 2 of them available at the same time later on. So after reaching the quality assurance building, Chai is ambushed and also introduced by the head of quality, who is Rekka. And she is this giant wrestler woman whose mannerism is aggressive and likes to solve every issue with her fists.
Introducing the head of production, Rekka!
Oh no.
And I just love how she uses these fists to the beat, and it's quite unique to say the least. So anywho, she is pissed at Chai for stalling her production quotas and wrecking her previously perfect, no defect record. Of course, Chai says that he was the one attacked by all the security robots and how they tried to kill him, but unfortunately, Chai did not read the fine print when signing on to Project Armstrong, where all defects get recalled, nor a fine speech killed. Suddenly, the platform ascends and a giant robot is revealed.
I like defense.
That's good.
I like how they taste.
Oh, that's bad.
The fight ensues and it's quite an interesting one. The boss fight in itself is quite difficult if you have not learned all the mechanics of the game yet. You can attack either the hands, stomach or head, but if you attack the hands long enough, they will allow you to get in a short QTE sequence where you have a chance of dealing some extra damage if you hit it. And if you do this twice, you will reveal how his weak spot is the head. Yeah, literally the head. He has a few different phases where he starts shooting rockets at you, electricity, and just going crazy towards the end. But with a finishing blow, with Chai's cog guitar now turning into a real electric guitar, he's defeated, and the whole platform falls down with Chai almost getting crushed by the huge robot falling on top of him. And the robot is now going to self-destruct, of course. Chai barely gets away in time, and now it's time to jump down a dark hole to reach Peppermint's hideout. After entering the hideout, Chai is flung into the air by a rope snare trap, where Peppermint is, well, revealed. They agree to help each other out, Chai wanting to escape the place, and Peppermint wanting some help with getting some information about Spectra. She says she has a small team that's working with her, and apparently Chai does not even play the guitar. Weak. The hideout functions as the hub of the game, which you will visit after each chapter. Here you can talk to your companions about various things, and you can buy skills, upgrades, you can customize your character with new outfits. There's also a jukebox where you can put on music. There's a giant white painting in the back where it will slowly be revealed after you complete certain challenges, such as hitting X amount of combinations or killing this amount of enemies. By doing these challenges, you also unlock gears, which is the currency of the game. And these drop from every single enemy and is scattered throughout the open world. A lot of the stuff is expensive, but you gather these gears quite quickly. You can also chill on the couch playing with 808, and before every mission there is always a mission report where Peppermint goes over the plan in a comic book style. So according to Peppermint, there are 6 people connected to Spectra. She wants you to break into the production building and steals Rekka's Spectra key. Peppermint won't join you though, so you're alone on this one.
I'm here, baby.
Who are you talking to?
Apparently, Vandelay was funded by Roxanne Vandelay, who built the company into what it is today. Peppermint's informant has informed her about how Spectra is some kind of AI and is hidden in all of the Vandelay Project Armstrong's robotic parts, like, Chai's arm, for example. There has never been a previous project that has been discarded before, and no one except for the executive members knows exactly what it is. Chai does not really care about it though, he just wants to get out and he does not really trust Peppermint that much yet. After reaching the production building, you meet Rekka once again, and this time it's personal. And her entrance is so great.
Introducing
You want to be successful? You want to be productive? Then you gotta be aggressive.
And she does not really like Chai due to him being a defect and apparently, disrespecting her. So the gloves are off, literally.
You're paying me double for this.
But I'm not paying you anything.
Hey! I'm the main show here!
The boss fight is quite difficult, with Rekka having 2 mechanical fists. She can also absorb electricity, which makes her invulnerable for a short amount of time, and you need to grapple hook to the 2 hooks in the ceiling when she is electrified. In the last phase, she starts to throw pipes and you get a short QTE sequence where you need to dodge them, and she can also pick up such pipes and fight with them. After dealing the final blow to Rekka, and she dies? Damn, this type of game does not really feel like one where you actually kill your main enemies, but alright. She drops her Spectra key and Peppermint joins you.
Whoa, this is crazy. Looks like we found our AI.
This is a screensaver, Chai.
She uses the key to try and hack into Spectra's database, when suddenly some alarm or some buzzer goes off. Chai presses the big red button to stop it, and we are now in a Zoom call with the rest of the executives. Chai name drops Peppermint and she freaks out and closes the call and is quite annoyed that now they know Chai is not working alone. Peppermint manages to find out in the Spectra file that it's some kind of mind control. Chai doubts this and thinks it's some kind of conspiracy theory from the dark web, but after connecting his arm with the Spectra code, Chai is mind controlled and he now understands the severity of the situation. Chai tries to leave, but...
But I have no idea how to get off this island and feel a little responsible for messing things up.
Great. You're hereby a member of my organization.
So, while you're down here in the hideout between levels, you can also do some important shopping. And the shop provides you with a magnitude of different purchases, such as normal attacks and combos, special attacks, which has a great variation as to damage, range and energy costs, power-ups or items where you can buy health, energy, health boost or increased pick capacity. And then there are different picks. And you start with only being able to equip one of them, but you can buy and unlock up to 4 of them. There are many picks to choose from and they all give you different stats, from the lesser cooldown to calling your friends, doing more damage, or your dashes having increased gathering range, and you can also upgrade these so they have greater effects. Peppermint mentions in the mission report how Spectra is a multifaceted cognitive AI algorithm. The AI development is done in the R&D branch, or research and development, which is deep underground. And the head of this branch is Sanso, who has some real JoJo vibes around him, and is somewhat of a perfectionist. So the mission is to sneak in, download the file, and get out. The place is surrounded by magma and volcanic activity, so you gotta watch out. After apparently volunteering to be a test subject for the AI labs, they don't know it's Chai though because Peppermint has scrambled their cameras.
Why is the image scrambled? Something's overriding our cameras to 40p. It's unviewable.
You're introduced to a new enemy, the laser system, where you need to parry attacks in a certain pattern by listening to the beats. You are promised a gift basket if you manage to survive the testing, and Chai really wants that gift basket. All of a sudden, the whole system seems to be hacked, but it's not Peppermint, it's from someone else. And after finishing the testing, you meet with Samso.
Mr. Chai.
Was it? That's Mr. Chai to you.
That's what I just called you.
Okay then. I am Zanzo. Yeah, I know. Zanzo, head of R&D.
He wants to test Shai even more, you know, because his reflexes are good, but how about his endurance? He summons a new type of enemy that has something called sea shielding, which Shai is unable to break through. And you know, he tries to reason with it diplomatically.
What are you doing?
I'm gonna reason with it.
Well, we had a good run.
Look, man, I think we have more in common than we do apart. How about...
But he is struck and flies through several walls until he falls down into a hidden room and meets something scary with glowing red eyes that analyze him like the Terminator. And now we have the classic TV show scene.
Previously on Hi-Fi Rush.
How about...
I've been looking for you.
Holy crap!
You are introduced to a robot called Cinnamon, who tells the truth no matter how much it hurts. Peppermint enters, and after meeting eye to eye with the stranger, she understands that this is Macaron, the person she has been in contact with and the person who hacked the system. Macaron used to be the head of R&D under Roxanne Vanderlei until Kale brought in his crew, and he more or less hates them for it. But he is not a man that likes violence, even though he's strong as hell. You know, he wants to find a more non-violent solution, and how fighting is just not his style. He has, however, found out a way to destroy the sea armor.
Sometimes work gets a bit stressful. Knowing who took everything from me.
You mean that guy? Zanzo!
And you are now able to call him in during combat to deal with the shielding. So with this new skill, Chai is now able to continue towards the AI labs and Samso. It's revealed that the head of security, Corsica, is the only executive not having access to Spectra. And after beating the same robot that beat you before, with the sea shielding, using Macaron, it's time for the AR or augmented reality, where you beat waves of enemies until you can kill the floating AR eye. And there are 3 of these in total. It seems that Samso is burning through a lot of his yearly budget, and fast. So the gang comes up with a plan to defeat Samso by making him burn through all of his funds. So Shai starts to annoy and mock Samso to make him spend more and more money on more advanced and costly robots, and even starts to summon volcanoes that you need to avoid. Or as Cinnamon remarks, balancing creativity with realistic goals is the mark of a good leader, and let's just say Samso is terrible at the latter. And how Samso never understood Roxanne's vision for Vanderlei and is instead only with Kale because he gets what he wants from him. And instead of a boss health bar, you now see a budget bar, which is more or less the boss health bar, where he summons even more enemies, volcanoes, and even a super volcano.
Quality and quantity. I want this bigger. We can't keep this up.
But there is a gift basket at the end, which he unfortunately knocks away. After finally beating all Samso throws at you, he has one last card up his sleeve, a super giant robot that makes everything you have met so far seem small. It has lasers, shields, and the budget ran out, so the last component was not fixed, meaning it stopped at 99% and...
Defunded?
Samso is defeated. And I think he's the only boss which is not really killed. And I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? He's not really a bad guy. He just wants to invent what he feels is cool and grand. Did he neglect everything else to reach this goal? Yes. But did he kill people like Reki and the others? I don't think so. With Samso's Spectra key, Peppermint finds out that the only way to turn off Spectra is to collect all the pass keys and then shut it off manually, so the gang needs 3 more keys. They are suddenly confronted by Kale and the head of security, Corsica, and it seems that Kale knows Peppermint from before. Chai calls for a timeout and huddles up with the gang and comes up with a brilliant escape plan.
You know that guy?
Can we do this later?
Sure, right, later. I think I know how we can escape. Really? Do you trust me?
Are we actually giving them a moment, sir?
Just follow me. All right, come and get me. Run!
What now?
I assume Mr. Jai did not think past this point.
After escaping lasers, roller coaster on pipes, and enemies, you escape back to where you started and is apprehended by Corsica and...
It should have been me, not him! It's not fair!
Kale kicks away Chai's magnetic stick towards the lava, but it's picked up by 808 at the last second. And we are now back at the hideout with Chai, just chilling in the sofa. But, he's interrupted by Peppermint, who tells him how Corsica totally kicked his ass and that he just needs to snap out of it. And they all seems to start snap their fingers to the beat and...
Wait, snap out of what?
Chai, you totally got caught by Corsica.
You mean...
Oi! Oi! Oi!
Yeah, that's a cool Twin Peaks reference. Well, it seems that Chai was just dreaming, and in reality he's captured by Corsica, who wants the truth and information from him. She will give him one more day to think about it before, well... 808 drops down from the air duct above and hands Chai his stick, and now he's free. Corsica's level is quite platform heavy, where you need to climb a tower that is surrounded by moving lasers, but first you need to fix the security system to start the central elevator. A mellow robot henchman gives you some instructions on how to fix them, and it's more or less using macaron and peppermint to put into place certain orbs that generate code to other orbs. You fix the elevator and head down, and in order to reach Corsica, you need to take the train track, where you unfortunately get found out and you have to fight your way out, but you get a kick-ass cutscene of all the members jumping in and out helping out.
There's the defect! Stop him! Nah, this is the guy that fixed the security system, man. Idiots! That's the defect!
Mind if I join?
On the way down to Corsica, you need to more or less survive until you reach the destination on the train. And there are ranged units that can only be killed by blocking them, and later on you need to destroy all the 4 emergency brakes, which are automatically trying to stop Chai. But when getting closer to your destination, how is the transport going to stop now that you destroyed all the brakes?
Lift is running a bit late.
I'm sure they'll be here.
Well, you're finally here, and now you can also start to climb the turret. And as I mentioned earlier, there is some lasers guarding. It seems that Corsica has tried to research Spectra on her own as she is barred from accessing it. So the gang thinks she might actually turn on Kale if she knows the truth, so all Chai has to do is be diplomatic with her, and he falls on her head, and he has no idea what he's saying because he is not calming her down, and instead agitates her into a fight. And this boss fight is quite unique, and if you have searched anything about the Hi-Fi Rush game, you have probably seen this boss fight, because this boss fight is entirely a QTE event. And again, let me reiterate, this is a fight where QTE is intended to be a game mechanic and it's really good, compared to, let's say, a boss fight QTE from a Far Cry game. Chai keeps on bantering with Corsica and now tries to make her even angrier to tire her out faster so he can negotiate with her when she is tired. And this boss fight is actually quite hard. You have a lot of health and can make a lot of mistakes, but hitting some of these QTE combos are quite hard, especially towards the end. And there's also a new mechanic that's being introduced. Enemies will now throw in attacks that can't be parried and they must instead be dodged, so you have to alternate between parry and dodged in these QTE sequences. And after finally beating her, you catch her, or not? And you now need to escape with her as she is, well, knocked out, and let's just say Chai is either a little clumsy or is really unlucky.
Hi, a private elevator.
Her personal lift. I'll reroute it to the hideout.
You wake up to the tram, but Corsica wakes up. She agrees that Spectra is something bad, but she wants to handle it her way and does not trust Chai enough to join them yet. Well, that's until Kale joins via the intercom and starts berating Corsica for not being great at her job. And this was the reason why she was never really part of the inner sanctum, because the others did not trust her loyalty. They banter on about the use of Spectra, as Kale just wants to control the consumers directly, or as he says, freedom. And all of a sudden the giant robot attacks the platform. It starts to charge up 2 giant lasers aimed at Corsica. Chai manages to jump in front and grab her out of the way, but back at the hideout, Corsica wakes up and it seems that she took a lot of damage and was close to death, and she now needs certain robot parts to be integrated into her in order for her to survive. Corsica agrees to join the party, but she feels stupid after having read the Spectra files, as she joined the company in the first place because she thought it was the right thing to do, as Roxanne Vandelay helped clean up her home when she was little from toxic wastes, and more or less helped the whole cities she lived in. And you know, this topic in general is quite interesting, as there are many people who have joined companies that they loved as a child or teenager and later joined when they finished their education. But after a short honeymoon phase, the company was probably not what you expected it to be. Long work hours, hostility towards its customer base, awful bosses, and maybe even the people you once looked up to are different from what you expected. You know, hence the term, never meet your heroes. I think the best example would be Blizzard Entertainment, who has created some of the best games of all time. But you know, Blizzard back then...
You guys take care of us, man. You guys really take care of us, man.
And Blizzard right now...
OS, we don't have any plans at the moment to do PC. Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah, you guys all have phones, right?
Are 2 different companies, where it used to be all about the game, and now it's about stolen breast milk from the company lunchroom, sexual harassment, and a bunch of lawsuits. I think Hi-Fi Rush portrays this quite well, how Vandelay used to be this great company that did so many good things for people and created products that people wanted, to the current company who does not care about the customers, and everything in the company has changed for the new leader's own benefit instead of the customers. So, the next mission report is to get Mimosa, and she is the head of marketing, and she's going to have a huge grand show that no one will miss. Well, also because she won't let anyone miss it. You are to get to her through the back door, which is the museum. So, with Korska in your gang, you can now remove fires and start generators when out in the open world.
Good night.
3, 2, 1, go!
Way to go, Korska.
Go on.
So inside the museum, there are exhibitions showing all the enemies you have faced thus far, and they were not initially created to be used, for combat purposes. They were used to help humanity, like sharing bushes, security police, traffic stops, and personal assistance for older or physically hindered people. Kale seems to have turned this concept on its head. Instead of helping humanity, he now used all the robots for his own pleasure as he sees fit. Or how all the robots except for the maintenance workers that Chai meets have been turned into machines with the intent to kill or suppress. Throughout the museum, you will stumble upon a guided tour that tells the origin story of Vandelay, and it's more or less fake, as Kale has made sure to remove all trace of the company's success of his mother, Roxanne Vandelay, and inserted himself as the future of the company. And Peppermint is seriously upset by this and is mad for Kale effectively removing Roxanne's legacy. Roxanne Vandelay started the company from scratch in her own garage, where she designed robotics and chips and sold them from an old pickup truck. But they don't mention how those robotics led to her solving the global energy crisis. The company grew fast and became the world's most successful in only 3 years. But after many years, Roxanne decided to retire and pass the company to her only child, Kale, who was smart, if not smarter than his mother, which leaves Peppermint even more flustered than she is normally with Chai. After traversing the museum, Chai opens up a back door and lets the rest of the gang in. But before reaching the stage, there's one more room in the museum where it continues to brag about how Kale was the only one making Vandelay Technologies the great company it's today. And Peppermint cannot take it anymore, saying how that's not true and how Kale stole it. It's revealed that Peppermint ran away from her family, not knowing what would happen in her absence. She knows that Kale did not develop the technology, as her leg was made by her mother, Roxanne Vandelay. So it's revealed that Kale and Peppermint are siblings. And Peppermint kept all of this a secret because she thought the rest of the gang would hate her for it, and not talk to her due to, well, her being related to Kale. Of course, Chai shrugs this off and tells Peppermint that without her, they would have never gotten this far. And so what if it's her brother? Her brother does not define who Peppermint is, and how they're gonna fight and succeed as friends. So the bond between the members is stronger than ever.
All right.
Chai reaches Mimosa's changing room, but she's not there. A bunch of sidekicks break into the room looking for the most important member of the show, Left Shark.
From the Katy Perry video is here. Straight lives matter. What does that mean to you?
Nothing. All lives matter. Gay lives matter.
And after running to the stage from the backstage, Chai steals the show from Mimosa when suddenly appearing from below the stage and making a power pose. And Mimosa is obviously pissed off for Left Shark to be stealing her thunder. Though, Chai reveals himself, and Mimosa sees this as the perfect opportunity to remove Chai.
Now hit it!
And this boss fight is probably my favorite one, as the music, fighting and faces are just awesome. From fighting in the dark to a straight up music competition.
Let's see who they're here for.
And this feels very akin to Space Channel 5. And there's a really long QTE sequence where you need to parry and dodge her attacks just like in the Corsica fights. And after sending her up to the sky, creating an explosion, you now have 3 of the 5 Spectra keys. And the next one is Rogue 4, the head of finances. We cut to a scene between Kale and Rogue 4 as they discuss what they should do now with 3 heads down and 1 having defected. They decide to allocate all security and resources to the main Vandalay Tower. And back in the hideout, the gang knows about all of this, as Corsica is still getting her work emails. The question is, how are they gonna get inside the building? Well, Chai has an idea, and let's just say it's quite dumb, like really dumb.
Those fireworks from the festival had to get launched somehow. Turns out it was from on top of the QA center in production. But now it was time for us to use it, shooting me into Vandalay Tower and right into Roquefort's office. The plan was airtight.
It was irresponsibly dangerous.
Statistically, the least likely to succeed.
It was supposed to be sarcastic.
But he had so much heart. We just couldn't say no.
So with a beautiful transition between the in-game and custom cinematic, we see Chai getting shot out of the cannon towards the tower. But there is an issue. A blimp is suddenly in the way of the trajectory course, and it sends Chai to a different spot of the tower, the cafe.
Well, I'm in. I hope no one noticed. Crap.
And you get a lot of help from the rest of the gang, helping you escape the floor and reach the upper ones, where a chef samurai who is hard as nails to take down faces you, and is more or less like a regular one but with more health. You reach a huge statue of Kale in the middle of the Vandalay Tower, but you are disrupted by a flying phoenix. And after beating the phoenix and more or less destroying the statue, you reach Roquefort's office, which is, well, there is a lot of gold-plated stuff in here. And he monologues how he used to be weak, but Kale made him stronger with the robotic parts, and how Chai does not want to make him mad, and we get an awesome remix of Wolfgang's 5th Symphony.
Hey guys.
Win. Confidence now, kid.
This fight is more or less about being airborne as long as you can to avoid the majority of his attacks. And after dealing enough damage to the suit, it will retract, revealing Roquefort, where you can start dealing true damage to him. And this continues for several phases where you more or less change scenery, but as Chai time and time again defeats Roquefort, but does no real damage to him. As long as he's angry, he will not take any damage, but he is defeated after the quarterly earnings come in. So, with the 5th executive down, there is only Kale left. And after a fairly encouraging speech by Chai and one door between them and Kale, they are ready to finish this. Though, it's not Kale who meets them inside. Instead, it's Roxanne Vanderlei who greets them, or rather, lures them into a trap, and an inescapable red laser box. It seems that Roxanne was controlled by Spectra for her implant by Kale, who reveals himself and gloats about himself. Kale reveals his plan with Spectra and how he used it on his mother to name him the successor. He says that Spectra is not something evil, it just nudges people in the right direction. So yeah, the plan is more or less to sell more products. Kale rants about how hard it is to make something that people actually want to buy, so instead, with Spectra, he can forcibly decide what people want. And yes, this could be seen as a critique of capitalism, even the game seems to imply that. But I'm not sure if this is that, really. But I'm not so sure if that's the right critique though. Maybe if it is a company that held a 100% monopoly on some product that is necessary to live. But otherwise, Kale reminds me more of an economic system that's based on a state or central planning, where the needs of the people and what they want is not of importance. But instead, only a small select few decides what everyone else can buy and what they should need. So it's interesting how the developers did not read much on economic theories about the game, since, you know, the story surrounds the world's largest and most influential company, which has done many great things for mankind but fails to understand that Kale is not really I personally don't think he's a capitalist at all. Anyway, enough economic theory. Chai gets mad and smashes his guitar with full force towards the trap's wall, and his guitar breaks, not even scratching the wall. And this moment of self-reflection might be the best moment in the game, where Chai concentrates and tries to feel the beat of the wall with his hand, and you have your companion saying encouraging things to Chai while you hit the correct combination and gradually see Chai grow as a person from where he started as this loudmouth wannabe rockstar who did not really care about others, who is now fighting for his friends, has taken more responsibility as the leader of the team.
Right. I do trust you. You know that, right?
And I know him now. I am a rock star.
And Chai manages to tune into the wall's frequency fully and smash it with his arm. And now it's time for payback, as they all jump out through the window, and I love this sequence.
Hey, Kale! We got beef!
Okay, screw this. Do what you need to do, just stop them.
So for the first time, the mission report is by Chai, and he wants everyone to spread out and let's get Kale. And I love the music of this level as it actually syncs to a lot of the battles. You make your way through the level with all your friends helping you along the way, you know, Peppermint shooting shields, Macaron punching the heavy stuff, and Corsica starting generators. And you remember that giant robot from Sanso's lab? Well, you know, it was 99% finished. Kale finished it, and now it wants to kill you. Through a lot of teamwork, and you actually get to play for a short moment as Cinnamon, he connects to one of the robot's damaged limbs and fuses with it. All members hold the arm up, aiming the laser towards the big robot, and it's one cool sequence. Unfortunately, Cinnamon's body is completely destroyed, but he's alive and Macaron can fix him later. Well, now there's only one more stop, atop the Vanderlei Tower. And it's a date with Kale. He manages to trap everyone except Chai in the same shields as before. He tries, of course, to recruit Chai with dreams of making him a true world-famous rock star. Of course, Chai declines this. But it seems that Spectra, or at least Kale's private version, is activated and he manages to disable or hack Chai's heart iPod and takes full control over his body. But all of a sudden, 808 attacks Kale's hand where he controls Spectra from, and now you play a short section as 808 where you jump and dodge the flames from Kale while jumping and clawing at his hands a few times to disable Spectra on Chai. And thus begins the last battle. And this boss fight is quite tricky, where you need to use everything you have learned up to this point. Parry, dodge, the use of specific party members' abilities to break through Kale's suit. So in this boss fight you can't just jump and perma-attack your enemy, you need to wait him out until you can break all 4 of his limbs. After destroying all of them, Kale of course enters God mode, dealing more damage than before and summoning lightning and fire. The last attack is where you QTE with each member doing combinations to deal the finishing blow to Kale, who is just too tired to deal with all this and blows up. Peppermint grabs Spectra key and you now have all 5 of them. She manages to shut down Spectra, which antenna powers off and Spectra is no more. We get a scene with Roxanne Vandelay thanking them all for saving her and the company, and asks what each of them wants. Peppermint wants to come back and work with her mother, and the same goes for Macron, who will take up his old position. Corsica will continue as the supervisor of security, and Chai, well, he will be the representative of the company as a rock and roll star. So we get a post-credit scene with everyone doing their own thing but later meeting up as Chai practices for his first concert, and well, he's learning the guitar for the first time. So after finishing the game and the post-credit scene, you get an extra post-credit scene where Peppermint has gotten some real strange readings around the campus. After the Spectra console was destroyed, and it seems that 16 of these signals have been found, and these are spread out on the different levels. And you were able to visit these doors before, but you were unable to open them. But now you can. And inside of each door there is a challenge. For example, you need to kill all these flying units without touching the ground for more than 5 seconds in total. And there is a secret ending to Hi-Fi Rush. When you complete all these 16 doors and challenges, it's revealed that the Spectra console that you destroyed at the end of the main campaign was only the satellite, and the real computer was deep underground, but there was also an AI, which is Kale, and he's gonna get his revenge. It's gonna be grand, he's gonna destroy you, and Spectra and the Kale AI are shut down by the cleaning robot that pulled the plug, and Chai makes sure that no one will ever put in the plug again. But also when playing New Game Plus, there are also new hidden doors and openings that you can now unlock, for example with Macaron's fist punching through doorways, or Corsica's air manipulation to start generators and douse flames. And inside here you can unlock extra artwork, more gears and some upgrades. All in all, these are worth checking out. And you know, that's Hi-Fi Rush. A fantastic game that unfortunately is not as appreciated as it should be considering all of its content. It deserved so many more awards, and hopefully it will be discussed more as time goes on and more players play the game. Personally, I think this game is already an instant classic.
You know that, right?
And I know it.